Need a verbal yes, like you're in an exit row. Yes, yes.
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 Oh yeah, that's right, the folks on the phone. Thank you for that enthusiasm. All right, where do we start?
Steve Kriz, Assistant Director of Accounting. The two areas that I oversee that are kind of at a tangent point with this is travel and expense reimbursement. So that's my view.
Yep.
Bruce Miller, Enterprise Architect. I meddle in all sorts of things, but mostly financial.
All right.
Antonia Bummer, Business Systems Manager, in charge of the maintaining PeopleSoft, as well as various legacy web applications.
I'm Ray, and I work in financial services, post office, and associate director.
Okay.
I'm Dylan Seymour, Business System Analyst for Financial Systems.
All right, and then let's see, on the phone, we've got, let's start with Susie.
I'm Susie Danko, and I'm the Service Delivery Manager for the Campus Financial System. And I'm also run projects for the financial system.
Fantastic. Elise, did I say your name right? You just hung up.
Oh, she just dropped out. If she joins back, Elise is basically kind of the business manager for the Office of the CIO and for ETS.
Okay, great. Jacob.
Good morning, Jacob Godfrey. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer here for the campus. I oversee contracts, procurement, real estate, and I wedged into this one a little bit with some oversight on reimbursements. Just curious, I was just joining by Zoom here today, but of course you guys are just a minute or two across the street. Would it be better if I come and joined you?
I would prefer that, but if you've got things you wanted to multitask and didn't want us to know about, you could stay put. We'd love to have you over here, though.
No, I've just gotten in the habit of joining Zoom meetings by Zoom, even if it's just a couple of offices over. So let me come join you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
We're on the fourth floor, Jacob.
The third, we're in the penthouse, in the boardroom.
We're not usually allowed.
In the circular room?
Yeah, we had to get a student to break us in.
All right, sounds good.
All right, and Megan.
Yes, I'm Megan Inman. I am with Oracle. I am the on-premise PeopleSoft applications representative for you guys. So I've been with Oracle for just over 3 years and in this specific role since June 1st.
Perfect.
Nice to meet everybody.
You buy from Megan. Yes. And Megan, where do you reside? Are you in Minneapolis?
Yep, I'm in Minneapolis, so nice and snowy out here.
Yeah, yeah. It's not here.
I wish I could zoom over to your office.
Next time
Yeah,
you're
right.
All right. And then also from Oracle, an esteemed UCSB alum, Mark Weintraub, who owns the overall PeopleSoft applications vice president at Oracle. Obviously, it's not on the call. We just had conflicting schedules, and he actually wanted to come here in person, but just couldn't. So
At least we're here in Jeff Henley boardroom. So.
Nice.
Whoever doesn't want to come to Santa Barbara in person?
That's right. Well, I'm here. Okay. It looks like that's everybody on the phone.
Graham is on.
Who is?
Graham.
Oh, Graham, I missed you. Sorry. Are you there, Graham?
We don't hear you, Graham. I see you unmuting, but we don't hear you.
Sorry, I
There you are.
upgraded Zoom and it looks like it switched my audio. Anyhow, I'm Graham Tomzik and I'm the technical PeopleSoft administrator for here at UCSB.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So, we've met. This is the agenda. Is there anything you want me to add to the agenda? This isn't your only chance to suggest additions. We can insert throughout. Is there anything you for sure want to see that that I haven't put on here. One thing I wanted to note that as you look at the participants, I actually am on twice. I logged on with my phone because I do want to show a few of the mobile features of how you can use your phone on the expense report itself, okay? So as we get into the expense report portion of the demo, I'll flip over to the phone and we'll use that for just a step or two.
The only thing, I know you guys got some advanced information from but I'm very interested in the corporate card integration piece, and whether potentially there's other import types of things for direct billing. And I don't know whether you're going to include that in the expense report piece.
We'll discuss it during the expense report piece. So corporate card, your travel card, right? The data flowing in, for sure. We'll cover that.
Right. So we have direct bill, which is a process where we have, UC travel system where we can put in an identifier and charge the flight that way without the corporate card, and then we end up having to get that on a ledger. So right now we do that through a series of reports and queries, and we provision a trip ID. Doesn't mean that that's how we have to do it going forward, but any system will have to do. We need to try to incorporate that direct billing concept where we're bringing in an expense that's been paid directly by, say, one card or whatever,
yes,
and then giving the travel expense for this particular employee.
Yeah.
So I don't know what, that sounds kind of like a customization.
It's not, luckily, it's not. So we'll get into it,
Okay.
but let me address it now because as I'm walking through the seeded data, the stuff that's staged, that particular scenario isn't there for me, but it will allow me to talk about it when I'm there. Let me explain what happens just holistically with PeopleSoft expenses, okay? If you have a travel card, the assumption that expenses makes is that UCSB reimburses the travel card, not the employee. But you can flip it and make the employee get the cash and pay. I don't recommend that, right?
That's what we do now. We would be going the other direction.
Perfect. Perfect. So then what you might have is you might have an individual's travel card associated with them, or you might have a universal, almost like a P card that pays for everybody's hotels for a convention or something, right? So those are going to be two different payment methods, but I'll show you on the expense report how you can, I'll show you on the travel authorization, how you can associate it with different future payment methods, okay? So that when the expense report comes, it knows who to pay, right? If it was cash out of pocket, it pays the employee. If it was the employee's travel card, it pays the employee's travel card. If it was the corporate travel card, it pays it. Okay, perfect.
One area we discussed a little bit last week, talked about what they could here is the pre-approval process. It's very interested in that part.
Perfect.
Something where somebody estimates what the trip's going to
cost. That in PeopleSoft lingo is the travel advance, right? Oh, okay. And that's like a purchase order to travel. And some organizations require it for every, just like some organizations require a PO for every AP voucher. You may, and it may be very appropriate for you to require a travel advance for every expense report because that's your encumbrance against your budget. It actually budget checks it like a PO, okay? And reserves that budget so that it doesn't get overspent with something else. And it also makes sure that you have the budget before you actually get the approval to execute the trip so that there's no surprises come expense report time. You can make it soft, right?
Soft checking.
Right. So there's, yeah. So you don't do control. You do what is the other control versus
So that
In commitment control,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm
We
talking
set
about.
it up, yeah, so we don't do the control aspect of it.
Right.
It doesn't, it writes it to the ledger, but it doesn't just warnings. For everything.
Right, it's a warning, but at least you see it. And as a manager of that whole
We don't even check them.
budget, oh, fantastic. Well, so here's an opportunity for an improvement that we might have just stumbled on that you probably have known all along. And, you know, I may have known at one point in time.
Budget, turning on budget checking. Broadly.
Or at least more. Yes, right. Or
I'm fairly convinced there would be no more traumatic thing.
Yeah.
I was in a room with, you know who Amira Marcos is? She's the 5 foot tall Italian woman who does all of the PeopleSoft roadmap. You know, here's what's coming in every Oracle presentation. And I'm afraid of her because she's got just a bundle of energy. And I once made the mistake of saying, once you turn commitment control on, it's on, right? And she just stood up and yelled, "That's not true." And so I cowered and said, "You're right." But it is true. Once it's on, your transactions have to flow through to finish. It is true. You can cancel them. So if, let's say I have a travel authorization, I've got the encumbrance, and I'm no longer going to travel, I can cancel that travel authorization and it frees up the budget. Okay. You can at least use the feature because you have to, as a university, even in the soft, in a reporting mechanism, right? A manager, we could build reports that show a manager what remains within their budget and where they're at risk of overspending.
We have a couple of features. Yes, and that will be a nice thing. We'll look at it a little bit on the idea of it. But we do have a couple things we've planned that actually don't go through the budget checking because they skip it coming from PC, assuming PC is doing the budget checking there.
Yeah.
But it's not actually because it's just getting worked through.
Where's it originally coming from?
Our facilities management system.
So there's a new feature now that allows you to pre-edit inbound transactions before they become PeopleSoft transactions. Yeah, it actually it turns on budget checking and combo edit in inbound feeds and stops them if they're going to introduce these combo edits or budget failures. It's nice. Look into it. Not a part of my demo today. So the other caveat on my demo today is that we, SpearMC, have a demo environment in OCI. OCI is the Oracle's hosted environment for PeopleSoft customers and PeopleSoft partners like us. So we have our hosted demo environment in OCI. And we can't turn commitment control on because despite what Amira Marcos says, once it's on, it's on. And so out of fear, we haven't turned it on. Same with the environment I'm going to show you, which is Oracle's partner demo environment. They haven't turned it on either. I should point that out to Amira, but I'm scared of her, I already admit. So I can't show you the actual commitment control process, but what I can tell you is we have tested it with our clients that do have commitment control turned on. So Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center up in Seattle. They wanted to go this route purely because they didn't care so much about the expense report, although the full integration is really, really nice because they use grants, all right? They use the full spectrum of PeopleSoft, and a grant is a fund, it has a budget that needs to be controlled on spend. And they needed the travel authorization as the encumbrance against that budget so that they could then do the trip.
We just have to make them move it if they're gonna.
So, you know, it's funny. I mean, like anything, right? An organization that insists you have to have a PO, 30% of those POs get created after the voucher shows up. That's just what happens, right? So there's emergencies, there's reasons, right? But we could put in edits to make sure that, because first of all, you can't do a travel authorization for historical date. Okay, so if I'm trying to do a travel authorization for a trip I already had, I either have to pretend like it's a future trip, in which case my expense report can't apply it, right? Or I have to admit I didn't get my travel authorization in time. Okay, now all controls that we can put in place, pretty draconian. I like to start soft and teach our managers where we've got problem employees and have them hone in on that. I'll show you how you can set up your risk template to monitor for that. Okay. All right. Should we get into the system? All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to escape out of here, and I'm going to go to my PeopleSoft. And now I use a very top secret user ID. You probably have never heard of VP1. I'm going to create an expense report I'll show you Fluid real quick under this ESA1. I forget that person's name, Jessica Berdito or something like that. Okay, guys using Fluid yet?
We are upgrading 9.2 in February.
Okay. And People Tools what?
8.56.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. So lots of stuff that comes in what you're talking about. One of them is Fluid, right? So it's kind of a fundamental change in a user interface. Don't get too freaked out, because the training on this is far less than we anticipated it would be. The change management on this is once or twice I see that I've got a completely different user interface to start with. And then I get over it because I know how to use an iPad, right? And I know how to use tile-driven, object-driven instead of my menu, okay? So that's it. I'm gonna undersell the change management aspect of moving to Fluid, but I want to show you what Fluid's all about, okay? What Fluid's all about is home pages, tiles, and trying to find faster, easier ways to get users into the transactions that they want to do in an easier path than the old-fashioned, very linear menu path structure, okay? So when you do your upgrade and when you do your Fluid deployment, you have to make some decisions on what kind of designs you want. Do you want to have multiple different home pages for different user groups? So each you've got a casual user that only needs to see expense reports or a dashboard of things in their business unit? Or do you want what kind of is designed here, employee self-service? Now, mind you, do you guys have HR? You have HR and campus? All three?
No, we have HR
through the UCOP, yeah. There's unified navigation, which means HR, student, and financials all on one homepage, one tile.
That'll never
happen. Okay. So it's an option.
Yeah.
All right. What we see here is I logged on as an employee, so I only have one homepage. I just have the employee self-service homepage. Okay, I can do my travel authorization. I can take a look at my expense information. It doesn't appear I have much here. I could do my timesheet. Payment request. That's when you want you want to create a voucher and I don't have a PO. You do that for like a tax return or things that you don't have invoices for. I won't get into all the tiles, but let's start with a few of them. Expenses and travel authorization. I'll get to travel authorization in just a second, I promise. Let's go over to the expenses. So when I click on expenses, it shows me here and this expenses. This is a dashboard. It's not a home page, it's a dashboard. And it's tricky, but I can tell it's a dashboard because it doesn't have this little arrow. I don't have a chance to go to a different home page from the dashboard, okay? you're limited to what things you can put on your dashboard versus a homepage. So I could be in a screen in PeopleSoft and I could say, you know, I'd love to have a tile that brought me straight to this journal entry page. And I can just click the add to homepage and I'll have a tile that says journal entry. Okay, so it's sort of like a way to store your favorites if you want. But there's also this nav bar, this navigation, that gives you a little bit of the old-fashioned menu structure. I'm Jessica. So I have, you know, Jessica has pretty much access to most of the menu path that you used to see over in the classic menu on the left, or the breadcrumbs. Okay. But I can also create a list of favorites, just like you could before. So there's so many ways for me to quickly get to the pages that I want to get to. Right? When I clicked on expenses, it brought me to this dashboard. This is my dashboard. This is specific to my expenses. And on this, I could see that I have 3 active expense reports. Okay? If I click on my active expense reports, I see here they are. They're all 3 waiting approval. If I want to copy, if I've got a recurring expense report, let's say that I always submit, I don't know, I've got a car allowance. So I'm gonna have an expense report every month that has car allowance. I can copy to a new report and just start that way, much faster than starting from scratch. Or I could, hey, you know what, Fred, dear approver of mine, I've been waiting a while. Could you please go ahead and approve this expense report? So I could send a notification over to Fred and say, or Fred's boss, and say, hey, is Fred out of town? It's been a while. Okay. That's what I see when I've got my expenses. But here, notice, I can also create a new expense report. I've got a button that says create expense report here. I don't have to go there to do that. I could have clicked straight on the tile, create expense report. 2 options. All right, what else do I have? I've got, in this case, a bad example. When I log on as VP1, I'll show you. In fact, remember this. I'll log on as VP1. I'll show you what this is all about. This is where you have data that comes in from the credit card feeds, okay? Or Twilio, so the ability for me to text. And I did that on VP1, so I'll show you the differences there. Okay. Right now, this particular user doesn't have any transactions that came flowing in from any source, and the wallet is just transactions waiting for me to put onto an expense report.
So you could be taking pictures of your receipts during a trip, and just it'll get stored in the wallet.
You have to two ways to do it, right? You can actually log on remotely if you allow that, and create an expense report line and add it there, or you can take a picture and send a text message, and with this Twilio feature, and I'll show you how you set that up. It knows my phone number is associated with my user ID. And so the next time I log on, I'm going to see it available sitting there waiting for me to attach that to an expense line. And I loaded a few so that I could show you what that looks like. Okay. I can also show you from the phone what process you go through to do that, but you probably, even Bruce knows how to text, right? If not, I'm sure there's some millennials that could walk you through that.
Great.
If I'm logged on and I don't want to start an expense report, but I want to get stuff into my wallet, I can actually add them here as quick expense lines just to store them for someone to, you know, put into an expense report later. The Getty, we were a great client of ours, the Getty Institute down in LA. Nobody does their own expense reports there. They have administrative assistants who are authorized to create expense reports on their behalf. And so they may just add a quick expense to make sure that it gets included in their expense report, right? Here's a picture of it. All it is an attachment of my hotel receipt or whatever, right? Just so that it for sure gets, and then someone who does their expense report would come in. It would be right there waiting for them. They pull it in and put it on their expense report. Okay? All right. So I'm not going to do an expense report using this user because they have no wallet transactions. We'll do that with the VP1 user. But I do want to create a travel authorization. So remember what I said. This is like a purchase order allowing me the right to travel. So let me just show you some best practices on this. First of all, the Fluid version, Fluid is what you're seeing, the Fluid user interface, is what I get when I click on the travel authorization on the homepage or on my employee self-service homepage. Okay, this is the.
That's a quick question.
Yes, of course.
Antonio, are we upgrading to Fluid or rolling out Fluid with the 9.2 upgrade? In other words, if we were mobilizing this product, is this how we would see it, or is it better to see it without Fluid?
You would see with Fluid. There's 9.2 comes with a bunch of delivered Fluid.
It will deliver stations.
Yeah. The only pages that won't be are your customized. If you have customized pages, you'll have to decide what to do with that.
We promoted those to Classic Plus, which is it
Fluid Light.
It doesn't, if you're on a phone, it's gonna not scale.
Just shrinks it.
It has a similar look and feel, so a lot of our custom pages will blend in with.
We just get a lot of custom pages. I just think faculty perspective, they're in the field, they're on their phone. Of course, the wallet's a nice way to go, but if they're looking for anything that's not just down the road, knowing that they aren't authorized to get in there yet, is this going to be an issue for anybody that's using a mobile device or anything other than the desktop laptop?
We will need to open up the way we set it up. I think we have a different. Is there a different portal to set up expense?
So you open up an external portal.
Yep.
So that your employees can access PeopleSoft from their phones, right? Text is an option if you don't want to do that, right? If you want to use your phone to send, and it's only push, right? My wallet transactions. But if you are able to open up the portal so that you can get access, and there's lots of ways of doing that. We partner with Gray Heller. They're now called AppSy, and they have a tool that we recommend, right? But there are many ways to authenticate your users outside the firewall using their mobile devices. Two-factor authentication and fingerprint, whatever rules you have. Okay. Once you do that, then you'll have all of the PeopleSoft Fluid pages that were designed, and they're designed in a tool called XML5 or something like that. I'm not a technical guy, but basically what that means is it knows how to re-render itself based on the multi-form factor. So if you have a phone, and I'll do a demo of that here in a second, it'll render it to the small form factor, or an iPad. It'll shift it slightly differently.
So with the interface itself, as much as if you're doing a lot of custom home pages or custom pages.
Yeah.
And then having the same.
Well, it would change very much because if we're implementing this, we'd be implementing this to go that route. We are looking at doing single sign. We are doing single sign-on. We have a setup for that. I imagine we try not to do any customized pages. If we implement this, that would be user-facing necessarily. Yes. The only pages we work on would be sort of administrator-facing. If we go that route.
And that's a pretty standard response we give our clients, is that the likelihood of users wanting to access the custom pages you've built remotely is low, right? Those are usually built for your core users that have transactions they're going to be doing from a desktop always. The candidates for a phone are this: expense reports, travel authorizations, and approvals, right? The approvals is a big one because I don't have to send a notification to which one was the one? can I tell who? Oh, this is a bad one. I broke this, but whoever my boss is, right? Remember the notify? Was that here? Yeah, send notification, right? If they're mobile and they're getting emails saying, hey, you got an approval, and they can click and log on and approve on their phone. They don't have to be back at their desk. And that will help expedite your whole approval process and chain, I hope. Okay. So
Huge improvement.
I hope so. I hope so. Let's add a new travel authorization. Okay. And I'm Jessica Bendito. All right. Now, Jessica may or may not be authorized to create these things on other users' behalf. Okay. I'm just going to see if she can. This is me testing right in front of your eyes. Let's see if she's authorized to do any other. She is. So she can do a travel authorization for Nicole Garvey as well, or herself. So Nicole might be her direct report, or it might be. So interesting though, if Jessica as Nicole as her direct report, Jessica can't approve this if she's the one that creates it. It's still whoever is the user ID creating this, regardless of who it's for, it will be routing based on that level of approval hierarchy. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave it as Jessica. We're going to leave it. She's going to be the one that we're creating this for. So I'll cancel out of that. And I'm going to go ahead and add a travel authorization. I get the chance up here to change it again. I messed up. If I've got to change user defaults holistically so that every time I insert a line, I get the same, every time I do a travel authorization, I can click user defaults here, okay? I'm going to do that after I add a line or two, okay? This is a template that has been pre-built based on the most common types of travel requested, okay? This is totally configurable, whatever you want, whatever, and I don't have to fill in every row here, okay? If, for example, I'm doing a driving trip and I'm only gonna rent a car, then I only have to fill in the information on the rental car, okay? In this case, I'm gonna add all three, okay? I'm gonna say, well, first of all, I have to give it a business purpose. And in this case, I'm gonna do a product demonstration, okay? And my billing type, is it internal billable or non-billable? I'm gonna say it's internal. It's my own company, okay? Don't have to have separate comments here if I don't want to. And then this is, when is your trip? See how, these are great. So I shouldn't be able to do a travel authorization for the past, okay? I think someone customized it and changed it on this demo environment, but I shouldn't be able to oh no, they didn't. I'm sorry. They thank goodness got fixed. You can't do it in the past, okay? Big red flag. All right. And we'll know if you did, because we're going to get probably credit card transactions from the bank coming and flowing in, telling us you have expenses. I can't fix that problem. I just have an expenditure without pre-approval. Okay. What we would probably do in that case is have a different workflow approval, that any expense report without a travel authorization goes immediately to prepay audit. If it has an authorization, it can skip that step.
So could we say, we have a lot of them on the campus, some that I'm sure love the idea of travel authorization, some that just don't have the staff to be able to do it. We could set up, say, different rules depending on the department.
You can. Okay. You can set them at the departmental level, at the department or hierarchy. So if you've got department trees, do you use tree? Yeah, so you might just say for this level down, they require receipts for everything. They, no per diems, must have a prior approval, that kind of thing. Yeah. Good. Okay. Then I'm going to say air travel. And in our case, what we're saying is we have preferred merchants and non-preferred merchants. And if you use a non-preferred merchant, you all automatically get a risk associated with it because we've negotiated pricing with our preferred merchants. If you're not using them, we may be at risk of spending more than we should, okay? And so that's this here. I've got my list of preferred merchants. That's defined when you do the setup in your travel policy, okay? Or I could say, you know what? I had to fly Delta. I just had to. So in this case, I've got a non-preferred merchant and no options with. And my justification is no flights desired, okay? All right, but see this? Warning, it's now labeled as a risky travel. So keep that in mind. But I am gonna use Hilton. I'm going to Florida, by the way, just to save time, I pre-populated that in the user defaults. You probably wouldn't do something like that normally, but I did.
Can you free text enter the destination?
I did. So this I set up on Jessica's profile defaults. You can also default the description and the business purpose if you want.
It's a search. It's got a search icon.
It does, and I didn't quite. Yeah. So this is you can download the list of expense locations from a most travel sites, orbits have these that you can pull in. You can make it a web service that you subscribe to. It's usually free, and it just keeps that and keeps it maintained. Or you could put, yeah, you could put. In this case, I just, as my default, said my from and my to were there, so I wouldn't have to type all that on my. Right.
Travel to and from. Is there any audit or warnings that come up if it's to a, let's say, country that's restricted or a state?
Don't know. Let's see what happens. Would Abu Dhabi fall in that? I don't even know. Yeah.
You go Tennessee.
Should I see if Afghanistan is in here? How do I spell GH?
Syria. Yeah, Syria's better. Afghanistan is not restricted travel.
It's not even on the list. So I can't profess to know where the list here came from, but presuming that if you do a web service, it's gonna pretty much have all locations. You might be able to subscribe to just those that are. You can like Cuba, right? You can't fly there from here. All right. So I'm gonna cancel this, and I'm gonna keep it Orlando. That's where we're going. All right, and we're gonna stay at the Hilton hotel, and that price per day is going to be $175. Oops, and I'm actually gonna change my duration to 2 days. My trip duration is 2 days now. Okay. And I'm going to get an automobile rental. Again, preferred or non-preferred. We're going to use preferred. My automobile is only going to be $125. If I wanted to look at my accounting, what I've done is I've put in some defaults for Jessica, her business unit. So do you just have one business unit?
No, basically.
One that you use, one that has everything. Okay, and then whatever chart fields you use can be default standard for a particular traveler. So in this case, Jessica. The account is based on the expense type. So this was airfare. Okay, you might even hide this so that they can't change the account because that really should stick with the expense type that you're picking. Okay, so you can decide what displays and what doesn't on this, or you could display it and say it's non-editable, it's grayed out, but we want them to be able to see it. Okay, and you use funds here?
Yes.
Yeah. So I cheated and hard coded as her default, just the general fund. But you might want to, in your expense report, instead of defaulting that from the, or in this case, travel advance, instead of allowing it to default from the user's just general defaults, okay, you could come up here and do it at the header level. So for every row on this particular travel, it's going to go against this fund and this project and this activity, okay?
And can you change the account?
Again, you decide if you want to let them. In this, it's open, but normally I don't even display it. I hide it, right?
We don't have a standardized account. So we have the issue that our account is actually department owned and not related to the expense type.
I remember that. Shame.
Yes, so we agree.
Shame. I blame Jim. I blame Jim.
He's not here to defend.
No, he was invited. Okay. I kid because I care.
Well, it's basically just the account structure the university has handicap medieval times. So,
And so what's going to be tricky there?
We're still following the one you gave us 30 years ago.
the stone tablets.
Oh, I blame Bruce. I'll back off on who I'm blaming.
Way back. But there's a plan.
I love it. What we might have to do is on the expense types, kind of map it to the department, and then if you pick, how does it? Do you have a different set ID for all the accounts, or is it all one set ID? Okay, yeah. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to, on the expense type, based on the department, map it to the appropriate account. I think.
Again, it's still not really. Their departments can have multiple accounts associated with them. Again, if we let them choose that, that's a good option. The problem
It is a good thing?
Yes, because the issue is they're going to choose the account it goes to, but they would use just the accounting default button, because from their perspective, like, so we put this as sub-object, basically, for what you account is our sub-object. And so we have to then essentially say they choose the accounting defaults, which would be account and fund. And then we would say these other chart field 1 and chart field 2, which are usually used to like break it up further in other places, are actually what we use to like put it as an expense.
Oh, I see.
So,
Well,
yeah.
well, those are available.
Well, we don't want them choosing those ones.
I see. Okay.
But they-
So in fact, I don't even know if we've displayed them.
I mean, at this
Yeah, we
point,
did not.
though, I mean, if all we're doing is we're getting an authorization for this, the minimum they need is the department, so that, because I'm assuming there'd be some approvers at the department level. When it comes to, I mean, ideally, they would know exactly what fund stream you're gonna do when they do the authorization.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if they don't, and we need them to get that in so that it can be approved for the trip, that, I'm assuming that when the expense report rolls around, they would be able to, you know, somebody in their department would be able to put in the full account stream.
Right. Right. If you allow it. So let me show you what a privilege template does here in just to say. I'll just hit save on this. All right. You guys get workflow, right? I mean, that isn't anything miraculous. All right. So here I think I'm going to get an error here. I think I'm going to get a warning because I tried to put a price that I believe is set as exceeding a local standard rate. Okay. Let's see. Save. Ooh, did it? I might have had to go higher. Yeah. Oh, it is. All right. So see this? I've got an issue here. What do I have to do? I need to see what the problem is. I am exceeding. The authorized amount is 154, and I have 175. And so I need to, at the very least, say, you know, I tried, you know, but it's spring break, right? That's what it is. It is what it is. Update the amount, right? So now I'm giving my boss some better info, and I'm ready to submit that.
Well, I have a question. So you've got the trip duration up there, but then you're putting in a nightly rate.
Nope, that's total. That's total. So I just submitted it. I wish I hadn't. let me do something real quick. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to add a new one. I'm going to leave it as 1 day, okay? I'll do it for the 14th. I'll come back the 15th, okay? And I'll just do, whoops, no, too quick. Cancel, run away. Hilton. All right, somebody tell me what's half of 175? I don't know either. 90 is more than half. Okay, I got to pick a business purpose. What did I pick? Demonstration. I'll do everything the same except for it's 1 day now. Okay, so now.
But, well, it doesn't give you the ability, or you haven't configured it this way, to put the quantity and cost for you.
Oh, we have not built it that way. This is total. You could put unit, quantity, and have it calculate extended if you want. But some organizations don't even go to this level of detail. They just have one line item and they say travel expense for my convention, and it's a one-line PO. The reason
from the authorization, expense report.
and so therein lies the problem, because you know how on an expense report, when you copy it to a voucher, it copies all the accounting distribution too. That's what happens on the expense report. When I bring it in from a travel authorization, then it's all there for me. Okay, and I can apply it. Right now, see, the daily rate was 77. So it knew on the other one that I was going to be there for 2 days and doubled it. And I'm still over on the single daily amount. Okay, so the reason that it's just configured for the total is to try to make it as easy as possible. What's the total amount you're going to spend on a hotel while you're there? What's the total amount on the car, and what's the total amount on the airfare? Okay.
Just to make sure we're on the same page, this is the travel auth, which means it's an estimate. It's not right.
It's an estimate, right?
And when we get to the actual expense report itself, we'll be able to distinguish from the base rate of the hotel, from the taxes, fees, miscellaneous,
Yeah.
whether it's gym use, TV, internet fees.
Yep.
Those get broken.
Yep. That's why you want a travel card, because the travel card itself will import what they call the hotel folio at level 4 detail, with all of that for you already broken down. Okay. Otherwise, it's up to the employee to manually, and they built a hotel wizard to help you. But if you've got the travel card, it's just easy. All right. Okay, I'm not even going to submit this one because it was, what's that?
Mixing the campus stuff using the personal card for mileage.
Well, exactly. In fact, you can make it hard on them to do that by, if you ever had a travel policy that said you couldn't, then they have an audit report that's at risk because they're using the card they're not authorized to. Furthermore, for things like airfare, you can require that field, the ticket number, to come from the feed. They can't even enter it themselves.
Not likely to happen in this environment.
I know, that's draconian. IBM did that. All right, so you get the travel authorization, you get all that, right? So let me show you the difference between the classic page and Fluid, okay? I'm gonna navigate all the way to the classic page. Travel and expense, travel authorization, create one. I don't want to save that. Now I'm going to the classic page. This is something that probably looks a little more familiar to you. I'm going to hit search. There's an issue here in that it should only list. Remember, I was authorized to do one of 2 people. This is giving me everybody, and it shouldn't. I forget what Jessica is. KU. All right, I'm going to go to my advanced lookup, and I'm going to say my name contains Jess. There I am, KU 21. Okay, I'm going to add a travel authorization. So it looks slightly different, right? These aren't pre-populated for me, and I can add multiple rows. I still have to give them my business purpose. I still have, this is where my default location 2 is, and it knows my from based on my profile. It knows who I am, and that's where I always travel from. Wouldn't change that. And then, and
we're traveling from somewhere else, that'd be a problem. In other words, we have faculty that travel.
yeah, so that was a problem on the classic page. Correct. That's why they're both there on the new one. And that's another thing, that they're not really going back and editing classic pages anymore. So if you want things added to the classic page, they'll tell you no, because once a fluid page exists that is the equivalent of the classic, the classic is deprecated. Doesn't mean that it's not still there, that you can't use it, but you can't report bugs or ask for enhancements to the classic pages, because fluid is the way of the future. Now, I forgot to point out these attachments. So if, let's say that I have, let's say I have a travel estimate from our travel agency, and that proves that I'm doing the lowest airfare and that there's no other direct flight, I could add an attachment as well, right, to justify the reason. But it's pretty much, as you can see, the same thing that we saw, where I've got the travel date, right? Now this isn't date range, is it? So this would be every day I put a hotel, day in, okay? There's no range. Expense type, this is all of them, not just the ones we built in the template. Description, your payment type. So we didn't see this on Fluid. It's optional to add. So the way we configured the Fluid page was not to have this and let that be stored at the employee default level. But it probably makes sense to put it back onto the Fluid page, and here's why. I forget the example, Steve, maybe it was you. Let's say that hotels are going to be covered by one payment type. That's the direct corporate payment. And that one is, we might, it's a prepaid expenditure, right? That's the organization's paying that. So for hotels, I might say, I'm picking prepaid expenditure. So what this means is when I finish my expense report, I reconcile against that payment, okay? Or American Express, this user, if they had a travel card, they would see that and that only. They would see their travel card, prepaid, and then cash or check. That's what they'd see. Okay, so cash or check means I'm paying by my credit card or by my own cash. It just means when I get reimbursed, that comes to me.
Bitcoin?
No Bitcoin yet. American Express is what's set up as this user's travel card. Okay, so when I pick American Express, now that I've picked American Express, the expectation is that transaction is going to be coming from the corporate card when the feed comes. Okay, that's how you decide who gets paid.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes we end up having to pay the corporate card an amount as well as an amount to the employee because they paid some things in cash. So can they have it reimbursed to both?
Yeah. So let's get into an expense report and show how that works.
Okay. So that comes later. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out there's still classic page. There's the Fluid page. If you're a desktop user and you insist, you can still get there. Navigation works. You can use this feature. Both of them, when you submit, right, save for later or submit, use the same workflow. All right. Now, I'm going to log out as this user. And I will log on as VP1 again.
Can you set it up so that you don't have navigation to the classic page?
You can. Yes, you can. Yeah. Yep. Yep, you could decide you're just going to turn off all classic pages if you don't want to have to support both.
Or train both.
Or train on both, correct. All right, let's go to the approvals. Since I landed on the manager self-service, and remember the last one, there was just the one homepage, fluid homepage. This is VP1. VP1 has all of the home pages, just like they have all of the menu options. So there they are, okay? This is something you guys need to look at eventually as well, the grants management homepage, but I won't even click on that one right now. I'm in the manager self-service homepage right now. And look, this is unified navigation with HCM and with maybe even Campus somewhere. I can't remember if Campus was on here or not. My approvals, when I click on this, this is unified navigation for approvals. So if I have, I don't have anything on HR. Let's say I had a promotion request within my organization, it would show up here. Let's say that I had a time report and you're using time and labor in PeopleSoft. The time report would show up here for approval. It's unified, okay? That might be worth investigating just for approvals, the unified navigation. You can pick and choose what parts of HCM or parts of student are unified and what parts aren't, okay? In this case, we were talking about travel authorizations, weren't we? So this is everything in my list. There's 26 items that I have to approve. Actually, should I jump on my phone and approve it from there? You want me to do that, or you want? Keep it here. All right, I'll go there and I'll do an expense report from there. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to find the expense reports that are in my list for approval. Here's one for $85. Let's take a look at that, okay? And I'm just gonna take no, that's not the one I wanted. Which one had the exception on the hotel? This one did, didn't it? Okay. Oh, where's her? Uh-oh, now I'm all red-faced. We're supposed to have a little flag here that indicates that there's a risk, and it's not there. I don't know what I did wrong, but, oh wait, maybe I do. Hang on. No, that's me, right? There should be that same warning flag that I had when I submitted it needs to be here. It needs to be telling me that there's a risk associated with this travel authorization. I just don't know why it's not there, okay? But I'm going to pick the lines, both of them. I'm going to say, yep, I think it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. If they had attachments, I could have drilled into the attachments, but none were attached, so I don't have the link here. It would show up right here. It would say attachments, and I could look at it, get my justification. I'm going to approve. Now, I'm like 20% sure this will work and 80% sure that there's a workflow problem right now. Let's see.
So if we were to deny, we put some comments in, click deny, it would route back to the
You might want to push back.
user.
Okay, push. If I deny, the user's going to get it back. It's going to be denied, and it's done.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
So again, that is once you deny.
No,
so you push
no
back,
trip.
Then they
If you push back and you say, hey, you know what, you need to do this, that, or the other. Okay. Now.
So one more question too before you move on. Let's say you recognize that it's over. The flag is there, the warning is there.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I'm not that familiar with PeopleSoft workflow. The southern one is. There may be multiple levels of approval based off the way the policies are from the department to potentially the vice chair up to the chancellor. How dynamic is this to allow for that level?
Very. So as we see here right now, this path only goes to the one manager level. But if I want, and these are reviewers, if I wanted to start a new path and send it to a different user ID and make them and say, I need your approval too. I can dynamically, just within this transaction, say, look, I think it's okay, but yeah, you're ultimately the owner of this budget. Would you approve this as well? Okay. Or you can set it up so that the path itself always has multiple levels based on amounts. So there's amount triggers, usually amounts. Yeah, usually amounts.
So I'm thinking for our travel policy, if it's over 200% of the authorization has to go to chance. So that's on a dollar amount section.
I'll talk to my more technical developers. This is not a technical developer thing. It's a configuration. I've never done a percent, but I don't know that you can't. I don't know your answer. So I guess what we'll do, we'll find out. Hey, Marcus, let's find out if you can. When we do workflow, it's usually very strict about dollar level authority. Let's see if we can flip that to percentage over,
Steve, would that be something with?
Yeah, it's good to have that answer. Yeah.
There's ways to do it otherwise. But yeah.
Okay. We'll look at it. But that's how you would do that. Now, if I go in, I can view the accounting. Okay. Right now, I'm not set up to be able to edit the accounting. If we want me to be, first of all, if my role as an approver is to audit the chart field distribution, I should be doing that for every line. And if we want to allow my user as an approver the privilege to change these, we can do that as well. Okay. Right now, they're just set up to view chart fields. Okay. But I think in your case, you're going to set it up so that they need to be able to make changes here, because that's going to be part of the review and approval. Okay. So if I hit approve, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get an error. Let's see, shall we? This will be fun. Yeah. I worked this morning to try to figure this out. I couldn't. I think somebody has updated some setup that I couldn't find. Right now, I'm listed as a reviewer. Did you see on the approval chain that everybody is a reviewer, but nobody's an approver? Right? Right now, there's nobody in this workflow that is, so that's why it says pending and not pending approval. It should say pending approval. All right. So this was my fault for, it worked before, and today it didn't. I did a dry run this morning in my hotel room, and I had to miss a conference call because I couldn't figure this out. Is it all right if I show you where that gets set up in further down the line?
I don't want you to run out of time.
Okay.
I think, I'm convinced that there is this concept of approver because we've seen it in finance.
Good.
So let's just move on.
I appreciate that because it works. Okay. Let's show you though, because this I think is important for you guys. Where you set up the what are they called? The privileges. Okay. Set up financial supply chain, expenses, management. So there's approval setup, and there is a privilege template. All right. I know, and all of these are building blocks, and you'd need help getting them set up the first time, but once they're there, okay. So an expense report manager for travel advances. That's what I'm going to pull up. Okay, an expense manager right now on the transaction lines, I want to be able to have full authority and full edit authority. I can't change the default, right? Because that, here's what happens. The default only triggers the amounts when they're added. once they're added, changing the default doesn't help unless I add one more line. Okay, I want to be able to, what happened? I want full, oh, I got to read correct history mode. All right, save please. Hold. Where's return search? All right, there you are. All right. I want full access to the transaction lines themselves. I'm going to hit save. Okay. Now I should be able to go in and see those transaction lines to be able to edit those. Okay. That's the privilege template. So that's where you get to decide, and you can create different templates. If maybe it's department manager and they're a reviewer but not an approver, right? It's very dynamic in the ways you can set up the various roles that people have within the process, okay? And this is the same type of thing you can do on the expense report as well. So if the expense report flows through and still got coded to the wrong thing, if you give the approver the authority, like I just did for the travel authorization, then they could actually update the distribution lines on the expense report as well. Okay, that's where that happens. All right, I haven't even done an expense report yet, so let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to do that I'll do it as VP1 because I want to show you some things. I'll go into the VP1's employee self-service page. All right, and I'm going to come down here. So notice when I was logged on as Jessica, she didn't have anything in her wallet. She had no unapplied charges. VP1 does. So these tiles are dynamic. They give you some level of information right there before you even drill into it. I'm going to drill into it, and I'm going to notice I've got 14 things in my wallet, okay, which identify 14 things that should be put onto an expense report. At least, right? Those are just the things that came through. I might have more out of pocket that I need to add that never went through a credit card, and I didn't do, my wallet entry or a text entry. Let's take a look at them. Okay, I'm going to click on it. So I've got 14, and I can even see what they're coded to right now. What types of expenditures they're, and most of these are defined based on the product category code, the merchant category code that you get in the credit card feed. So you actually map them to your expense types so that you don't have to do that. It's just mapped for you.
On this dashboard, is there any way to indicate which of those expenses that are pending that haven't been posted, that are essentially lines or just in the wallet, that are going beyond a certain date?
Love it.
More than 90 days, 100 days, 120 days. Way to start to say, hey, you're running into problems you may not be just running.
I built it, but not. I didn't put it on the employee page. I'll tell you why. It's an excuse, but it's a good one. If you build reports like that, what you want to do is you want to create a variable that inherits the user ID on the. So this was built. This is a delivered pagelet that PeopleSoft. You turn on PeopleSoft and it's there. Okay, this is built to be specific to me. I logged on, it knows there's a dynamic prompt in this query that says, here's the user ID, display that, okay? And I would need to build, since what you asked for, isn't delivered, we can build it. It just would require us to build that dynamic prompt as well. And I'm not smart enough to build that dynamic prompt, but there are plenty, Antonio is. He'll do it. Won't you? So the answer is yes. And when I get to the compliance dashboard, we'll talk about what more you can put up there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to drill into my wallet. All I'm doing here is looking at my wallet transactions. This isn't where I typically go to post them to an expense report. I would create an expense report to do that. I just want to see them, okay? But I can actually add new items. So that quick wallet entry icon, I could do it from here too, okay? So let's take a look at some of these. All right, so this is beautiful. See this little icon here? Presumably, this is the airfare corporate Visa account. This icon here, that's the American Express My transaction, okay? And then these guys, see the little chat thing? That means I texted them. I sent it by text message and it's just sitting there in my wallet, all right? So let's just look at this one for a second. I'm gonna open it up. Now, when I clicked it, it refreshed and it became, and it was the first one on the list. So it shows up over here, okay?
You texted it, how does it categorize it there?
I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you. Love the question. Love it. And I'll probably forget. See the attached receipt and there's one. Okay. Well, I must have put a picture out there. Oh, there it is. By the way, here are the other ones waiting for me to attach to something. Okay. But here's the one that I attached. Dare I even launch it and see what it was? It is for 40. Wait, it is for $44.97. The actual amount on the so smart me. Okay, so that got there by my text. This got here by the corporate card. This got here by my travel card. So far, so good. All right. That's my wallet in a nutshell. Let me go. Again, I'm not applying these to an expense report. I'm just here looking at them. And if I want to add some, or you know what, shoot, this transaction is 4,918 days old. It's no longer valid. I can actually delete some of these from my wallet, clean up my wallet. I've got receipts in my wallet, actually my real one, that are like 4 years old. I don't know why. Time to delete them, okay? All right, so that's the list of my wallet transactions. Cancel. Oh, back. Let's do a really quick expense report, okay? If I want to see the existing expense reports I have, I can see my list of actual expense reports. This was a mistake, and it shows up on the compliance dashboard too. I can take it off, but I wanted to point out that I made a mistake. What I was trying to do here is exactly what you were talking about, but not for age advances, for my expense reports that have risk. And I didn't get that prompt into it, and so now I'm getting every expense report that has risk. Yeah, so this is not something you would put on the expenses dashboard. You would put it on the compliance dashboard, unless you build it for unique, just my expense reports, right? And ideally, if we did that, this would always say 0. Okay, all right. How much time do I have? 35 minutes? All right, I'm gonna use it all. Let's create an expense report. So, click create an expense report. Now, you already saw one way I could do an expense report, and that was copy from when I was looking at the older ones, right? Here I am. I'm gonna
Created from the pre-authored to advanced pre-authored.
Yes. So right now in Fluid, you can't. You can only do it from classic expense report page. So that is coming. It's on the pipeline to be delivered. And so here's what that means. This Fluid page is not fully replacing the classic page. So the time is not running yet on the classic page being deprecated. There needs to be a quick fill option that says quick fill from my travel authorization, okay? That isn't here. It is on the classic page. Okay.
Relative to the roadmap, when do they anticipate that migrating?
You know, they'll never admit when apparently it's a revenue recognition thing with Oracle that they won't promise which image it's coming out on, just what the roadmap is.
Just knowing that it is
Yeah.
I can keep an eye out for it.
You can even vote on it if you need to. I don't know where it's at. We're actually on the advisory board for expenses with the Oracle. So, yeah. There's a couple of things that we've asked for. One of them is the ability on your phone to track mileage. It is like almost a stopwatch, right? Start and stop, and then it automatically populates as a line item on your expense report because everybody has GPS now on their phones, and you know when you're traveling. So let's look at what we could do from add for my wallet, all right? So I could add some expense lines for my wallet. Remember the one that had automobile rental, right? It was already coded automobile rental. And it was for $44, and it already had an attachment. Let's pick that guy, okay? And let's pick, I use the same attachment for a dinner. Let's pick, oh, these are all old. Dang it. Let me just pick that then.
Can we pick one from the corporate card?
It's so old. Well, we'll get an error saying it's a really old transaction. So let's pull in this air travel. Let's just see what happens per Antonio's command. Okay, so I've created my expense report. Now let's look at the details. Okay, the two lines that I pulled in, right? See this guy? It's going to tell me, what is it going to ask? It's going to say you have a really old. First of all, I haven't attached a receipt. I have to have a receipt for this expense type for this amount. So I've got a warning here. And then I've got a really old transaction. And because it's so old, I actually have to add a comment and explain myself before I can even hit the submit button. Okay, so sorry. It was Antonio. And now we've saved it. So see this ticket number? Okay. We've got this expense type coded to require this field, ticket number. And I might even have grayed out. Oh, I didn't gray it out. You can choose to gray it out. In other words, it's required, but I can't enter it, which means I have to use the corporate card to pull that data element in. Period. There's no way around it. That's draconian. You could just require it like this and make them go find it and type it in. Right? Now, this was not a preferred merchant. Remember the two? It was United and American, I think. So I've got to give a reason behind that. All right, now I'm still with no receipts. That's the only issue I've got on this line. I can click on that, okay, and see those two that I have already texted to myself. And I didn't put any information. I just put a picture. So it knows that those are just receipts waiting to be applied to an expense report line item. Okay. My other option is to add an attachment from my PC and have it scanned and you know, it's just sitting there on my device waiting for me. And I could just, I don't know what I'm going to come up with in my pictures. I know my daughter's baby picture is somewhere out there.
Where there is no receipt, filing this receipt affidavit, is there a way to do that within the application?
Yes. Correct. So what you can do is I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to have an attachment. Hit down. So then when I hit save, I've got no receipts. When I hit save, did I hit save? Give me a second. Error exists. What's the error? Let's go back to my details. No receipts. Yeah, well, I didn't want to. See how this older transaction comes up? I can actually, oh, you know what? I can't with an airfare. I can't. I have to have a receipt. I have to. Now, I could attach a picture of my daughter, right? Or I could attach one of the ones I've already sent. I'll do that. For certain expenditures, you could say a receipt is required for over $75, but it's not a hard stop requirement. In other words, if I don't have it and it's meals and I paid cash or I just don't have, then just like this old comments, it would be no receipt. And I'd have to explain why.
What about an exception?
I screwed up. This is how you do it. You just caught it. That's how I do it. This is where I explain it. Thank you. Thank you. Good catch.
Randy,
Yes.
this is Susie. So we have a procedure here where if the traveler doesn't have a receipt, there's a form they have to fill out and sign. So if we procedurally decided, okay, they could, put a picture of that instead of a receipt, could that no receipt button be turned off?
Potentially. What I would recommend is see this that did come up when I clicked no receipts, right? I have no receipt. This came up. This is completely configurable. This modal window that just opened. You can make this your form. I would make this your form and have a little button that says, I hereby acknowledge that, I broke the rules, and you can insert an attachment here as well.
And can you have additional fields on this form if there was some other information we wanted them to type in?
Yeah, you highly configurable, configurable, correct. Okay, and here's the deal: you can make it configurable. So this is the expense line, right? It knows it's the $202 airfare that didn't have a receipt and needed to, and you can configure by expense type different forms, different exception comment forms, so that if it's airfare, you have to explain yourself this way. If it's mileage, maybe not so much. If it's business meals, start asking, hey, was your boss there? Were clients there? It's all highly configurable and variable based on the type of expense. Okay. All right. So we've got this. If it's all right with you, I'm not even going to submit it for approval. All right. I mean, I could, but I'd rather not. You get the whole workflow thing. Let me go to my phone real quick.
Split receipt.
Yeah.
What is that like? Is that just
Where were we? Yeah, here, right? So that's on, is it on the air travel line? Let me add a line. Let me add hotel lodging. Okay. So first of all, I don't know if you guys noticed, but everything I need to fill in changes based on the expense type. So I need to know how many nights for hotel lodging, right? This defaults from me, right? And it's assuming since I'm adding it and didn't bring it in from a credit card feed that I paid for it, okay? Let's say it was 4 nights, okay? And it was a preferred merchant Marriott. It's we're gonna say non-billable. I don't know where this came from. It must be in my profile. Okay, itemized hotel bill. Okay, so this is like split, but it's unique for hotel. This is what you were talking about. If you have credit card data coming in, it will have already itemized it. So you will see hotel room, hotel tax 2, hotel tax 3, local tax 4. you will see gift shop. And that's important. That's really important because let's say that, what's my amount? Yeah, I guess I can't itemize more than, yeah. So let's do, how many nights do I have?
4.
All right. Let's do $1,000. Really inexpensive. Yeah. Okay. Now it's going to let me. See, I'm now in the wizard. Totally configurable. You get to decide. Some people don't break out room versus tax, or they allow hotel in-room movies and others disallow it, right? Let's say, okay, do you have room charges or taxes? Yes. Do you have room service charges? That should be coded to meals, not lodging, right? Let's say yes. Do you have telephone or internet charges? Yep, I do. Parking charges, I'm going to go with no. Laundry charges, no. Right?
What if you use the 50 cent? Is that something you put in later?
It's totally configurable, whatever we want. Right. So yeah, right.
But
Right, because that might be a truly. Yeah. How do you break it out if it's not at that level? Again, highly recommend using the credit card fee to do it for you, right? But if you haven't, that's where you have to add a miscellaneous. Okay. All right. Okay. So you get it. What was the room rate per night? It was going to be $190. Okay. Somebody do the math. The running total. The room tax was 10. Okay. Were any personal? Was this a personal expense? Okay. Right. So good. That was not personal. Okay, we've got $200 left on my hotel bill to distribute. What was the room service? It was dinner. It was $75. It was not personal, nothing personal. And I'm the only one that was in my room eating that meal. Okay, I might have a problem that might exceed the limit here. Okay, I could add and say, you know what, there were actually 3 meals. Again, if you have the hotel folio, it would have done that for you. But on another day, I could say I had breakfast in room charges. Okay, but right now I'm going to go next. What do I have left? 125. All right. So phone and internet was much 50. Okay, we allow that. All right. Seems reasonable. Business expense. Miscellaneous, right? Now it's asking me, well, what is the expense type? And I'll pick one. What might it have been? Hotel gift shop. There you are. Hotel gift shop. And that was $75. And oops, you know what? That was gifts for the kids. All right.
I'm assuming that if it automatically loads this data in, that you still have to go through that exercise.
You would. You would. It frankly assumes nothing's personal. Nothing personal. And you would have to go and flag it, right? Now, all I'm doing is I'm saying this was on my bill, but because I paid by check on this one, it's just gonna wipe it out. If I use my corporate card, what it's gonna do is it's gonna offset any residual amount that's coming back to me to offset that, because you have to pay the corporate card. It's gonna pay everything on that bill. And if you don't, legally, Oracle couldn't build that it becomes an employee receivable, but most organizations do. Most organizations flip it to a travel advance that they have to offset against another expense report. Okay, or cut a check and pay it back. Okay, but that is not delivered functionality, but it's out there publicly available from lots of organizations that have done it. Okay, so you get it. So it walked me through, that's how you break down a hotel bill by through the wizard. You only need to do that if you are entering manually. If you did the folio, it would already have come in.
I
Little bit.
apologize. I feel like I'm missing that last comment about the functionality, the way it breaks up between the.
Okay. This entire expense I paid for, so it's the point is moved, right? What I'm doing is I'm reconciling a bill that says $1,000, but I'm only expecting reimbursement for $975. Okay, that's what I'm expecting. Okay, so I'm going to add that to my report. Are you sure you want to create 11? Yes. Okay. All right. So now I have, look at every day, hotel lodging, dinner. Okay. I have it all the way down. And when I review my expense report, I've got to, so there's $75 that are in it that are non-reimbursable. So those won't come to me. And then the due to supplier is the credit card. Okay. Again, here's where if the hotel bill was used on the corporate card, $1,000 would be here. $1,000. And the amount due to the employee, if I didn't have 75 to offset against, right now that's negative. Okay. It just goes negative. It goes to basically a receivable account, but not employee receivable. Oracle claims legally they were not allowed to even deliver the functionality to net payments to employees.
That's the piece that I was going back. I was wait, what did we just talk about?
Yes,
Okay.
that. So it's available in the Ether world. We could get it for you. The code that others have done that just simply say if this is negative, right, then flip the accounting offset goes to employee receivable or employee advances, which is a receivable account. And
post the 4,000 as a business expense to paying the supplier, which is the credit card.
It won't because that advance to receivable, that deposit. You'll only do the expense.
The receivable is a debit. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's the part where I got lost for a moment. Now I'm back.
Okay. Now I'm not going to be able to submit this because I've got errors. I don't even want to go back and figure it out, but I think it's the credit card that I pulled in is no longer associated with my user ID. No, actually, I think it's because the date expired on that credit card that I pulled in from 4,000 days ago. But this is where you would associate it with your travel advance if you hadn't copied it from the travel advance. Okay, that feature's coming. Promise, that feature's coming. I promise. Today, you have to associate it before you submit it. Okay. If you forget, basically you've got a PO and an expenditure that didn't match up against each other. So you still got an encumbrance and you've got expenditures and you didn't clear it, essentially.
Now, in this case, would the system give you a warning saying, hey, you don't have a pre-travel authorization or is this you can, oh, by the way, make sure you go back and associate.
You can set it up so that you are required to have one to associate. You can. Most don't because of the fact that there are just times when you didn't get the approval in time. You had to go. Okay, so do I want to associate this or not? Right, and maybe I click associate. Okay, so now it's associated. It's going to offset. I don't even know what was on that travel authorization, but this is basically how you match your PO to your expense. Okay. What I recommend is doing the travel authorization at that line level and letting that be a copy source for creating the expense report. Cool? Because then it's all there. All right. Okay. Let's go to the compliance dashboard that I built.
One more question for
Yes.
you. Another wrinkle here is we often have, you may put in for travel advance, maybe authorized, we may have a registration fee that has to be paid 6 months before you get there. So the employees incur that expense, they've applied for it, it's in here, the money has been released before you put this expense report together.
Yep.
Is that 2 stages, 2 different reports that get put in, or functionally?
Essentially, on the travel advance, you flag the payment type as a prepaid. Okay, and so the employee's not really out anything because it goes presumably straight from the organization to the agency hosting the event.
The employee may be out of pocket, they paid it first. When they apply for
In that case, I would have them do an expense report. So that,
yeah,
so that they get reimbursed. Right. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. So if you have multiple lines on the authorization, one authorization, you can pull that line in. That's where you would copy it in and say, just do an expense report for this line on the authorization. Everything else is just like a voucher that shows up that is only for one line on the PO, right? Correct. All right.
Is there any problem if the event is like in the future and you have to pay it back 3 months before the event occurs? Does it have an issue time, the dates?
If it's in the
travel is in September, but July, and I've got to pay it. You're going to
you've got to so sort of what you probably do is have your travel authorization with the date of the prepayment, and then because you know how you can pick dates for each of the expense types, you just have the date for the prepayment as September, and then all of the other travel on August or October.
So how do you tie the two together? That actually, I got this conference I'm going to in September, and I have to prepay something earlier. I just have to keep track of it all, pull the things back together.
I mean, is there a concept of an advance that goes that then gets pulled into an expense report? I'm assuming
Cash advance?
Cash advance,
yeah.
But maybe you can do a direct payment type advance for this type of thing. Because this what Bruce is describing is common.
You were mentioning prepayment as something you could choose on.
So let's jump on a travel authorization here, and on the this is my fault. On the template, I didn't add payment method. I defaulted it, so I actually have to go to the classic page.
Yeah, you did show us that.
So what I would do is I would have one line that is conference fees, and its payment type is prepaid, and the date is the date you have to pay it. And then on the next line is the hotel, and the next line is the airfare, and that would be the dates of the actual travel.
But then if they wanted to say they prepaid it themselves, it wasn't a card or something that you paid in directly, what they would have to do is create a new expense.
In that case, here's what I would do. I do two. I do an authorization just for the advance and an expense report. That's what I would do. I think trying to keep all of it together, right? So, but that's why you have things like the business purpose, right? And even, dare I say, the description and the expense types, so that you have data elements that you can use to tie together and say, what are my, how much total am I spending on, trade shows and user conferences? Okay, these are configurable, by the way. You get to do whatever you want on that list. All right. Let me bounce out to the compliance page. Okay, so I'm still VP1, but pretend I'm an expense report audit function. I'm a compliance department. What I did was I built a whole homepage just for that user community. Okay, and homepages can be built with security just like any menu navigation is built with security. So,
We have a bunch built already for actually.
oh, you do? Perfect. And have you used security, permission lists or roles for, or is it pretty much public?
No, it's all security based.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. What's cool is if you build it and don't apply any security, and say this goes to a page that has security, if I don't have security to that page, I don't even see the tile.
Right, and that's what we
Yeah.
do. It's like if they don't see
Yeah.
it, they don't get
So that's where you could build one great big homepage, right? And just rely on the native security to the wherever destination. The problem is if you're building these dashboard pagelets, these applets, right? Everyone would see those, right? If you made them public. These, in each tile, you can, within the tile, you can decide you want it security applied or not. So the page and the tile, just like the menu and the page, and it's just security, different way of navigating. So let's take a few look at just really quick, okay? Expense risks. I've got expense reports out there that have risk categories associated with them. So let's take a look at some of these, okay? And by the way, I wouldn't label it level 1, level 2. I would actually have some nice names for those risk levels. What I see is the same eye chart that I had before, but it's a pivot grid. So I can drill into my level 5 is the most severe. Let's see what's going on there. And what I get is the results of my query, the output of my query for expense reports with risk, but only with the filters of for expense, category 5. I guess that's it for now. And I could start to take a look at what's going on. Okay, the risk criteria. I guess the level 5 includes older transactions. I exceeded an authorized amount. It looks like somebody submitted the same expense twice. Expensive type. I exceeded. This is me. No, it's not. Somebody spent $200 on lunch, right? Another one on duplicates exist. Okay. Now, this particular query was built with related content links. So when you see these little actions, this is the well-written query that has related actions in it. I don't know what they are on this particular query. Look at that. I'm in a different, can I drag it? Oh, I can drill to the expense reports and I can see the employee profile. I had to change the resolution of my screen for the projector here. Okay, I can drill into the specifics line by line. Okay, if I click on go to the expense report, I could actually go to, and I think this takes me to a classic page where it loads the actual expense report on there, lickety split. Okay, and then, so classic page, I can start to take a look at, well, what's been going on here? I can go up here and I can look at the details of the expense, who approved it. I can see the whole cycle. Looks like they haven't been paid yet, which is a good thing. It's got risk. And I can find out, what's going on with their HR supervisor. And hopefully I can address issues as the auditor, okay? That opened up, I can't even close it because this keeps popping up. Go away, go away. I'm not gonna be able to close it. It's okay, right? It opened up a modal window. Right now, my 20-minute time limit is on that and that window. But I don't even have 20 minutes left, so it doesn't matter. All right, so that was audit. That was with risk. It should refresh to my page here. Expenses with exceptions. Let's see what exceptions are going on. Oh, was that the one I just went into, or did I do the risks? So the risk level is within the expense report, can actually trigger new workflow. The exceptions, those. Wait, I said it backwards. if there are exceptions, it can trigger new workflow. The risks are just buckets of risk categories that are there for you to review, but you can't use those to invoke new workflow. Right. And now I'm forgetting which one is which, but that's why, so these are the risks, right? These are the risks that should have shown up on the managers, right? So this one doesn't invoke new workflow, but that's where you can dynamically add another reviewer or approver into the workflow because it's supposed to show me that the risk existed on that particular line item. Okay. All right, we get it. And then again, drill into the details. All these that are submitted without receipts, I can see them all. These are pivot grids. This is a feature that is free. You get it. It's one of my favorites that PeopleSoft delivered. Yeah. Let me go back to, so a new travel authorization was a topic of discussion. This is the one that I built, travel authorization status, that doesn't have that dynamic prompt for just the employee. So I put it on this, but you could build this with a dynamic prompt for the employee, put it on the expenses dashboard so that I always know how many authorizations I have out there that I need to either, I'm not traveling, let's cancel it, or I've got an expense report that I need to address. Okay, as I drill into this, I built this. So there's this exploded pie here. I built this with what's called drilling URLs. Okay, so you saw the little link that said drill to the expense report. You can build that in your query like this, so it's a hyperlink. And you probably already have that feature today. I don't know if you use it in query or not, but yeah. So the dashboard. Now, I know I'm almost done. I've got 3 minutes and I'm going to use them. Last thing I want to show you is the work center. And if you haven't looked at work centers, I think beyond pivot grids, these are also among the slickest tools that have been delivered. This is where you can create these very well written exceptions for just tell me about the problems. Just tell me what exists that are issues out there. I want to know which expense reports were reimbursed that shouldn't have been, all right? If I've got grants and I've got contracts and my contract limits alcohol at meals, but my employee got reimbursed, I want to know. Okay, incorrectly reimbursed. They shouldn't have been reimbursed for it, but it got all the way through the process. Okay, we don't have any. It would be blue. There would be a little blue link, and I would be able to click on it and see all of those that existed. Okay, I don't have any overdue cash advances, but I do have some unassigned wallet transactions out there. Okay, and there's filters on here just for this particular user to see just a group from a department collection. Okay, there's unassigned wallet transactions. Let's look into those. All those pivot grids that I was talking about, let's expand a few. We've got a lot of transactions where we're using non-preferred merchants versus the preferred merchants. So I've got a pivot grid that tells me, okay, well, a lot of it's happening here in airfare. A lot of it's happening in auto, right? These orange are the non-preferred. Okay, I can drill into this detail and figure out what's going on. Most of them should allow me to drill down either to the detail or just give me the whole query. This one wasn't written well because see how there's no links? I get this far and then I have to stop. You need to have those links. You need to keep going, right? Once you're drilling in to solve problems, you don't want to be stopped at the modal window here. I tend to start these minimized because if they're maximized, they all refresh every time you refresh the page, and it can take the page a while to render. Okay, who are my top spenders in this organization? who have the most expenses, who are my top 20. This should give me a list. See how it's slow to render?
Is this the delivered work center?
These are all delivered. These are all delivered. Right. So these I put on the work center dashboard and are delivered pivot grids. Okay. Here I can filter out just by department. That one that I was showing you on the tile, that had pre-filtered. This one, if I just want to see my top spenders in the finance department, I can create this pivot grid and publish it just like this and restrict it by permission list, so that only the people with the permission list to see finance would see this pivot grid. So I don't have to rebuild the pivot grid for every department. Okay. All right. So I see some alerts here, unassigned. There's some pending expense reports. There are, do I have any open transactions for employees that are no longer with the organization, right? Whether it's approvals or the expense reports themselves. My screen resolution is messing me up just a little bit here. Open transaction, on hold pending approval. Expense reports, 192 travel authorizations out there, 192. That's a lot that we need to be dealing with, right? Maybe that's the right number. Maybe they're flowing through, but that's how many are in the queue. And then one cash advance. We didn't spend much time on cash advance because it isn't that common. I don't know if you do cash advances. You do for travelers? Maybe if you go to a corporate travel card, you won't need to do as much. Maybe. I'd like to think. This section of a work center are just links. So this is just like favorites. You could create a tile to do this, or in the work center, you can click. This is just straight to create, modify cash advance. It's going to open up on the right. Now I'm creating a new cash advance, but I'm still in the work center over here. If I don't have enough space, I can shrink it with the chevron, but it's still there. I'm still in a work center. Okay. This is where now your breadcrumbs break, because I came from the work center, not the expensive. I didn't come. I'm in the work center, right? In fact, in 856, you probably won't have these.
We don't have the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, they'll go away. Links. You can allow a user to personalize their links and add whatever they want. This is just to help in navigation. Put it where a collection of users will be focused on. This is the expense administrator, so probably not a lot of users here. And then over here, the common reports and queries that you would run as in administering the expenses applications. A lot of these we've already seen because they're posted on the dashboard, right? And then your reports, the standard reports that you typically run, all within the work center. So, in a nutshell, integration. If you use project costing, if you use project costing with grants, it's all there. If you use commitment control, it's your purchase order authorization to travel. It is a nice tool to have visibility before the travel for a manager, and ultimately the ability to copy that in as your source for the expense. I didn't do anything on the phone, and I apologize, but imagine, if you will, everything you saw, but on a phone. That's what it is. You saw the things I texted that were already in my wallet.
Yeah, Randy, you did that last time.
I did? Okay, good.
Real quick, just talk about it a little bit. It's just once you have the expense report, how would that get paid?
Okay, yeah, so there's, let's see if I've got a process expense reports on my link here. All right, it wasn't there, so I'll have to navigate. There's a process you run, and it's just one page, and it's all of the things that you can do. So it's stage payments. You pay by AP or payroll?
AP, good.
Okay, both options available, right? If you're staging for AP, it stages and creates essentially vouchers to pay through AP and runs a separate expenses pay cycle. Okay. You can pay an employee by let me see if I can go back. You can pay an employee by ACH straight to the bank account. It could be the same bank account as payroll if you want. You can allow, if you want, the employee to change the bank account, because some employees don't like to have their expenses come into the same one that, because their spouse spends it and they need it. I don't know. I've seen activity like that happen. Let me, where was it? Let's see, hold on. I'm going to go to the employee profile here in a second. Update employee profile. Okay. Can you, oh gosh, what was it? 2-1. I want Kenneth Schumacher, 4-2. Oh, I might not be able to do Kenneth Schumacher. I actually should have done 2-1 because he's me, so I can't update me.
So what you're doing here is you're paying an employee, not necessarily a vendor or a supplier, use parlance, right? So these reimbursements, you don't have to vendor that employee. You're just paying them as a payee, so to speak.
Through AP, but they don't have to be set up as a vendor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That is a clear advantage than what we have for set up employees as vendors.
Yeah. This page here is where you would set up the expense report employee's profile. Okay, and this is where you would put your phone number, and when I click text message, this is how it knows when I text the Twilio account that it puts it into my wallet because it's associated with my phone number on this user. In fact, if I would have stayed on Kenneth Schumacher, you would have seen my cell phone number on there. And what Oracle does is they run a process every day to deselect this so that I'm not getting tons and tons of transactions coming through. This is where you set up the Twilio. This is where their mailing addresses are. Their direct supervisor. Okay, this should inherit from the user ID, but if you needed to change it for expense supervisor is different than their regular, you would update that here. Remember when I said I had defaulted the accounting? This is where I did that. You might only default the department, probably would for the employee, right? And then when I said I defaulted the word travel request in my originating and ending locations, remember we saw that. This is where we put that default in. The payment type, okay? I'm going to default transactions to be that, whatever that corporate credit card is, in this case, MasterCard, but we could say, you know what? This employee uses their own, so we're going to say check, okay? That's just the default though. If it comes from the credit card feed, you can't change it. It's the credit card. That's the payment. All right. Other defaults, if you use project costing business unit, it's nice to default in there at least, even if you don't default the project, so that they don't have to put the PCBU first and then the project second. Okay. And here, the bank accounts. Yes.
Well, on the accounting, could you specify a default account?
You can. Right now, I don't think we have it. Oh, that's the project. That's the project default. So where was my? It was on here, right? Here. We didn't add it because it should come from the expense type, right? An expense type is airfare, and there's an account called airfare.
Right.
Yeah. You can display that here and add it. We didn't even display it.
A question on distribution accounting distributions. Didn't see it, but can you do splits?
Yeah, so I did the split for the hotel wizard, but there was a split line option. There was a little button that said split line. And if I would have done that, it would have, that means how am I splitting it from an accounting distribution perspective? Okay, I actually have to split it and tell it what the expense type is for each line, which might be the same thing, but
You can split it at the line level. You can't just say, okay, I want this entire bill to be split. It has to be at the line level, 50/50.
so that's a great feedback that we should give to Oracle. The answer is no, you can't. You can't do an automatic distribution. Yeah, yeah.
For audit purposes or for external audit, what's the best practice here for being able to say they've selected a transaction off the ledger, there's $10,000 of travel for an XYZ grant? How do we export this information out, or is it best practice to give direct access?
You mean for the external auditors? I've seen external auditors get read-only access. They usually need to be trained.
That's what I'm worried
Yeah,
about. So
they
if you're to
usually
say,
need to be trained.
print me out a package of, here's the transaction, what does that look like coming out of this? Or,
So what you're talking about is really detail from ledger, start there, and then drill down to the transaction history, right? May I?
I know we're
Well,
time is
it's
up.
everyone on Zoom. I think that we can kind of put it the demo. We can stick around whoever wants.
Yeah, I'll, and then we will probably have to jump on the road soon because I actually am flying out of Long Beach of all things. But let me find General Ledger as soon as I can. Here you are.
And there's ways to create queries that are drillable. Report.
So we can head up the query over to the auditor to make.
Right,
and
exactly. If we had to query, let's say we had an auditor, they want to use the system for X amount of days, we could set up by security based on, oh, they can run these queries, and then they can be able to drill the query.
And I
Export it
imagine,
to Excel or.
and I imagine we'll put all of this into the data warehouse as well.
Yeah, there's different ways in this, you may not want.
But,
I mean, it kind of depends on what type of auditor you're working with too. I mean, an internal auditor, I'm gonna be a little bit more open with because they're gonna probably give you some consultation. Whereas an external auditor is looking for, errors to sort of put in the management or whatever, or exception letter. So, but that would be a decision at the controller's level or the audit committee. But I get what you're saying, but it's like, how much do you give somebody?
Yeah. How does that come deliverable? What do we have to do on that?
I mean, I would never volunteer this. If an auditor, I mean, from the outside, I mean, really, I mean, that just goes against, not that we're hiding anything, but I mean, part of the audit is to come up with a plan and says, I'm gonna sample these things. They don't look at everything. Yeah.
Don't give them more than you need.
So what I'm doing is I went into a page called Ledger Inquiry. Okay, and actually my breadcrumbs are helpful here. It's under General Ledger Review Financial Information Ledger. Okay, because just about everything an auditor's looking at starts with what's in the ledger, right? And I picked some parameters here. I picked 2005 because it's old data, as we kind of saw. And I said, look, I want to see my business unit fiscal year 05. Give me all periods, and by the way, show me year-to-date balances because I might be looking at income statement accounts. Okay, now let's come down here. This is where they would likely be looking at a section of an income statement or a balance sheet, right? So you can either pick an individual value in your account, right? By doing this lookup, and look how fast it is. It doesn't want to right now. Come on. Would you stop? Okay, I could pick accounts, but you know, or I could say, you know what, it's just give. I want to find it, and it's an expense type. So maybe just give me the expense type accounts here. So I just type E, account type E.
I guess the bigger question is how much of this is drillable from the general.
Well, yeah, I was hoping to get there. I can't. Cancel. Go away. Oh, stop.
But I think with the
It's drillable. Dang it. But as long as the data starts in PeopleSoft, look at you.
Ledger. So they say, yeah.
Give me a sec.
So if you're about, okay, we drill from the ledger to the subledger, as long as it's part of that.
I just lost it.
It's easy, right?
But let's see if there are any. Yeah.
Yeah, once you get that message.
You're done. You're done. You're done. All right. Cancel. Now I'll cancel. I give up. All right. Here I am back again. What they're likely going to do is say it's a range of accounts that I want to see. So that what you do is you'd set up your chart field value sets, and you'd say, you know, controllable expense or fixed assets or current assets, and you would create that value set here. Okay, and I doubt there are any that are created, but oh, there are. Okay, so what are we auditing? We're auditing.
It's okay. You don't have to drill down all that. Maybe some other questions over here.
Okay, I was so close. Once I pick my value set, search, and then once I get here, I can drill to my activity. I can find out what drove that product detail. I can drill to the journal. Okay, I can see that it was in this case petty cash, and that's where it stopped because I didn't have a subsystem that generated that, right? But I could, if the subsystem was billing, I could actually drill all the way to the invoice, the bill. If it was AP, I could drill to the voucher. From there, I could drill back to the PO.
So then you'd have the comments and all the actions. Okay.
Yeah. So it's drillable. That's a tool that you would consider giving them only the links. Every time I drill to the transactions, right? I can download it to Excel. Everybody loves that. I can go to the actual journal line itself. I can always, well, I should always be able to go back. So, and on down the line, I can see which ones I want, which transactions that make up that balance in the ledger, and figure out what happened. As long as my source data, that's just you guys already have that. There's nothing, I don't think, new about this ledger inquiry functionality. Just a lot of people don't use it because they don't know it's there. What other questions were there?
So we do reimburse non-employees, and I would assume that it would work with a vendor. So if it's an employee who's submitting an expense report, we would pay the employee. If it's a non-employee, we would set up a supplier. I guess now that's that we would reimburse. Is that correct? I mean, we wouldn't be creating employees for people that are here visiting. They're visiting here, their professor visiting, reimbursing travel. We would create an
two ways. If you want them to use the expenses module, right? Then what you would do on the let's see if I was there recently, on the employee profile. Remember, this is the expenses employee profile. You would have to set them up with technically an employee ID, but so do they have an email account?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
From or whatever, So
what we see all the time, I mean all the time, is that we are in the system, not as users, but as expense report users, and our ID starts with either V or S, supplier or vendor. Okay. And so we get set up. You get set up technically as an employee ID. The reason it says that is it actually, there's integration with HR that gets your employee data in typically. But if you don't have employee data, you can manually enter it. The key field is just called the employee ID. That's all it is.
So this is, we get employee ID feed from HCM.
Okay. Okay. Right. And you should, right? So what you'll do with your employees is they'll all get loaded in as expense users. But if they're a non-employee, you either have to add them this way with some sort of a vendor employee, made up employee ID, right? Or a supplier employee ID, and then you could just go ahead and get them added, okay? Now they're an expense user, but they aren't necessarily, you haven't given them a PeopleSoft user ID yet.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have to add them here, even just to reimburse. They're not gonna use it or create an expense themselves. They just want to create it on their behalf. They would still have to add it.
They need to be added here to be able to be reimbursed. Even, and that's what you would do is if you want someone else to do the expense report on their behalf, then you assign them rights and then they click on the change user and it would be the vendor user. Or you give them system access and just give them expenses. And that's it.
Okay.
Are they going to have a corporate credit card or anything?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I think we'll probably look to our, district campuses or whatever, because I mean, it's not just unique to us. So there just must be a way of paying these types of people.
Right.
Because they're not gonna, I mean,
So you would flag them as a non-employee here,
right,
right? And now that means I'm not expecting regular updates from HCM on this particular item.
Right.
Well, a lot of it's kind of a one-time thing, right?
Yeah. If it's easier to go AP, in those cases, but if you want all expenses to be tracked through the expenses module, this is how you would do it.
Oh, it's just a use case that we need to address.
Yeah.
And it could be multiple. I'm looking at, we have to reimburse. They're here for 6 months. We're doing a monthly reimbursement.
Mm-hmm. And this is where, obviously, on the organization data, we don't know who their supervisor is because it didn't come from HR. So we would have to add the supervisor's user ID here. That's who's going to get the workflow approval to approve the expense reports. Okay.
So can you build an approval just on the account stream?
It's actually, you usually do it department, right? Department, but you can do account if you want. So department usually doesn't change that much throughout the lines. Account does. So which account, right? Because let's say there's 8 lines on the expense report. Do you want 8 different approvers if the accounts route to 8?
And our accounts work different.
Yeah, our account is
More like department?
Our account is
Yeah, more like department. So we're maybe talking about the same thing, that your route control based on account is really a route control based on department. And a route control is what group of users are authorized to approve this range of departments or this range, in your case, of accounts.
So you can do the routing based on a chart.
Correct.
It's like just a query.
Just got to be careful because if it changes on every line, either you say just based on the first line or the biggest line or all of them. In other words, if this means 5 routings, it goes, all 5 have to approve it before it gets approved.
Yeah, we want to suss that out.
Yeah.
Right now, we do it based on the owner, a single department. So somebody may be traveling for 2 different institutes. There would be one approver in our TVs for that.
Yeah.
A releaser.
See, that's what the expenses module assumes the easiest workflow, which is your 1/1 approver, right? And if that's all you have, it's a really easy implementation. But it allows for much more elaborate workflow to be built in. And usually that's what happens. Multi-level, usually by amount, right? The higher you go. You can even audit. One of the risks is cumulative expense reports, so that you can track to make sure that someone's not splitting them up to stay under the second level approval, so that it triggers a flag once they've accumulated, and you decide what that span is over, the year, the fiscal year, or even just the month, to make sure that they're not circumventing controls by submitting 12 expense reports when, if they put it on one, it would have jumped to the next higher level.
Steve, you just beginning to have approvals at the level?
That isn't where I don't think we would go in for that.
You want to keep it at higher level at the top?
I think so, and if there's,
There is a chart field. There is an expenses by chart field pivot grid that's delivered. Can't remember where it is on the Work Center. I think that fund is a chart field, right? So let me see if they included fund on this. My luck, they didn't. I think they just did account. Oh, shoot. See how it's refreshing everything that was not minimized? Well, now it's going slow. They probably throttled back my Wi-Fi bandwidth. All right, so I'm not going to minimize that. I'm going to go over here. So yeah, you son of a gun. Hold please. Yeah, I know. All right. Fund. Here we go. Okay. I think that this is useful, right? And these kinds of pivot grids that if you wanted to just build one pivot grid, but then for each fund, or you can associate, do you have funds in a tree?
We do. We have them in several different trees.
You could create the tree you need or use one that exists and associate. So this would appear hierarchical, just like the tree then. And so I could pick the roll-up node or just the individual values. And what you can do is use the same pivot grid and then filter it and then save it, publish it for this permission list. Save it, publish it, this permission list, right? So that then they wouldn't be able to see this filter here. It would just be pre-filtered for them. And any chart field makes a nice little data element that I think you want, at least at the display level, for what you see below. So as I drill into it, it's going to let me.
And the source behind it, the data we can wrap security around, so department, it's only looking at the department they have access.
That's right.
Not what everything else.
That's right. And by the way, everything here, it all starts with a query. And so if you have security applied at the query level, at role level, it inherits that security, whoever is logged on. This is just a query. That's why they keep refreshing, because they're running the query to display. So, and the reason it's a pivot grid is that you can actually swap. If this is a display and you wanted it to be the x-axis or the y-axis, you can do it that way. I know I'm probably.
Tony, are you saying that we would limit their ability to pick chart streams just context of the department?
They probably already are.
Yeah, if there's someone in the department.
They're not currently, but that's because we haven't rolled it out. Yes, you
Yeah,
could,
not currently in PeopleSoft.
but you could limit it all that way.
I know you can, but then we run into the issue of we've got oftentimes projects travel funded by multiple departments.
Right.
Which then makes the question of the routing. Who,
It doesn't have to be department, just if we wanted to restrict data, based on users. based on what department.
permissions, or
Yeah.
individual user profiles.
This is that same pivot grid, but I opened the chart version of it. And this is where I could take a field like fund code and I can make it the column. And now I can see that same travel expenses by account, by fund. Okay.
So it's 12:30, we have planned to do a hard stop. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate, well, we kind of like coming here. I came from Chicago. So thank you. Very nice to meet you. Watch yourself around here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. It's tough to connect. Hey guys, Steve, Bruce, good seeing you guys again. Are we done recording, Antonio?
I am now.
All right, I'm gonna stop.